Hello, and welcome to another rousing edition of Trending Topics with BB. Yes, I am your humble host, Brooke Brown. You can find me at brookembrown.com. I pretty much explain who I am on that. If not, find me on my social channels. Yes, it's been a week and a half or maybe more since my last podcast. I've been really busy with my day jobs. Uh, Basically, I have been paying attention, and I appreciate all you listeners out there that do listen to this podcast. I appreciate it. I actually enjoy doing a podcast, and I really hope to keep this going and see where this goes and maybe hopefully grow it. And hopefully all you listeners out there will put in a good word on iTunes. And if you have an iPhone, anything really, an Apple product, please subscribe to this podcast. The links will be provided. And please put in a good word in the reviews. That'd be awesome. But enough of that plugging crap. Let's get to the real reason you've tuned in. Yes, well, I put polls on my Google Plus page. If you're a Google Plus follower, you do see my polls. If not, then, well, sorry. That's a capability on Google Plus that I'm utilizing at the moment. But recently we had some choices of topics to go across, and there was Movies Volume 2, Movies to See Volume 2, as the last episode was Movies to See. There was also stigmas that I really don't like, that bother me, and there were also, you know, the other topics that do interest me but could be talked about. But anyway, I'm just going to touch on a lot of things tonight, not just one topic, because, well, there's a lot going on in the world, and I don't really have somebody just to hone in on one topic, but I like to keep it fresh and have been happening. So, to continue on, let's do a segment that I like to call Movies to See Volume 2 instead of a whole podcast. Let's do that. I failed to mention in my last podcast about Mr. Turner. Go see Mr. Turner. That is up for a lot of movie award nominations. Stars Timothy Spall, a well-known British actor. I suggest that. Another movie that is getting great buzz, but also causing some controversy, is Selma, that also has Oprah Winfrey in it as well as backing it, and the main actor, David Oyelowo, who plays Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the movie, seems to be getting a lot of praise for his performance as that historical figure in our history, so I suggest that movie if you have not seen it. Now, I know these are all specific movies that are being nominated for awards, but not every movie that is out is either nominated or probably will be nominated. But there are other movies out there. There's Chris Rock's movie Top 5. There's all kinds of movies to please your fancy. If you have not seen, I will mention again, because maybe I have mentioned this in previous podcasts, Penguins of Madagascar, featuring Benedict Cumberbatch, who's also in The Imitation Game, who's also the dragon in the Hobbit series. Just a little trivia for you folks out there. Quite trending right now. But I did want to touch on some movies that maybe you've heard of or haven't heard of. Like I said in the last podcast, The Gambler, I had the privilege of seeing a screening of that before it, an advanced screening before it was opened, and it's actually really surprisingly better than I thought it was going to be, so I highly suggest seeing that movie. Now, a person could just Google movies to see and basically come up with this list, but I did want to kind of talk about it in my opinions based on what I've actually seen, and I have covered that. Now, moving on, I do want to touch on some stigmas that I do not, that really just fucking bother me. First of all, let's talk about mental health and what people perceive as mental illness in this country. There are lots of issues that people have to deal with. I just want to touch upon one thing that is actually personal to me, and that is the fact that I currently finally was diagnosed as an adult with a mental illness, and you can't see this, but I'm holding up air quotes. I have general anxiety disorder, but I think I have other things, but That just could be the hypochondriac at the moment in me. Anyway, moving on from that, we as a society need to figure out how to not make people feel like shit if you do not understand their mental health or their illness. People struggle with things daily. Everybody has their own way of coping with things daily. Everybody's been through different shit same day, yada, yada, yada. But what I'm getting at is I hate the stigmas and the overcompensation and the just brush off of it's not, these are issues that people can't just brush off. And they're very serious, so we need to touch on that. I also want to touch on the fact, well, it's kind of been touched on, and why the imitation game is so good and so relevant now, even though the story talks about a historical figure, is that it touches a little bit on feminism, and it touches a little bit on human rights, not just whether, Alan Turing was a gay icon, but that's not what I'm getting at here. That's a whole different can of worms. What I'm getting at is we need to think a little bit more about trying to understand our fellow human. I've touched upon this in previous episodes of Trending Topics with BB in a different way about humanism, and, well, it seems to not be working in our favor, but I still feel that's a stigma that bothers me, so that needs to be addressed as well. Now, there are a bunch of other fucking stigmas out there that fucking bother me, but I felt that these needed to be talked about in this particular episode of Trending Topics with BBs, because it is what's trending in my mind right now. It is what's trending, and I do want to address it with all the things that are going on in the world, all kinds of shit that keeps hitting us daily. So, along those lines, I do, again, want to shout out to all you listeners of Trending Topics with BB. Now, if you are a loyal listener, and you have suggestions for what should be talked about in this podcast, feel free to hit me up on my social channels, which are linked within my website that I mentioned at the top of the podcast, as well as if you're getting this link from my social channels, you already follow me, so congratulations. Or not. Anyway, a little self-deprecating humor to throw in here, but I just wanted to touch that in this week's edition of Trending Topics with BB, and again, I thank you for listening. Now, appreciate it. And I will see you on the next, well, not literally see you. I will be looking forward to talking with you, the proverbial you, on the next episode of Trending Topics with BB. And have a wonderful week, or whenever you're listening to this, just enjoy your time and life in general. That's all the wisdom I can share at the moment. Because that's a whole nother thing I can get into. But again, I'm going on a ramble, and so you either are sticking to this or you have already turned this off. But have a wonderful time, and thanks again for tuning in, and tune in once again the next time on Trending Topics with BB. Goodbye.